All right, so let's say that we want to focus on kind of formatting this data just to make it look a little more presentable, because right now we've got some words that are overhanging a column and we don't really want that. So what you can do when you have overhanging data within a column, you can just go between whatever column it is. So A and B is where this overhang is happening. And when you hover between them, you should double click and it will snap that to the end of it. So now nothing's being is not overhanging that column edge. Now I want to explain what data we are looking at here. So we have misbehaviors that students have done and how many students were sent to the office for this crazy behavior. So in the first quarter of school, 56 students were sent to the office for bringing an emotional support llama. So that's the type of data that we're looking at today. Hopefully you can find a little bit of humor in that and it makes it a little more enjoyable rather than, I don't know, looking at pop sales or something crazy. So I've already done a little bit of formatting there. Now, as someone who looks at data often, some people have preferences. One of my normal preferences is wanting my data centered. I like when everything's nice and formatted. You can click in the top cell of like a square of data that you're wanting to make. If you hold down the shift key and then go down to the bottom right corner of a square kind of that you're looking at and click, it will highlight all of that data. If you have your screen large enough, you should have like your centering tools. So you've got your left alignment, your center, and your right. If you hover, normally it will have the words pop up like align right. I like all mine centered, so I click center and it centers it all. I like to have titles bolded. It makes things pop a little bit more. So I just clicked here, shift, click the end of that top row where I have data, and I can hit bold, or Command B will bold it. And then I can do the same thing, shift and click, and I can bold the behaviors as well if I want. So now my data is looking a little bit better. Now, if I were to print this data, there's not going to be any of these grid lines that you see. You have to specify when you want borders or grid lines around certain data. So again, if I click in the top left, hold shift, click in the bottom right, I've selected my data. Now I've got this little border key up here. If I use the arrow, I can do all borders. Now I see those thicker, darker black lines. That's giving me a nice border. So if I were to actually print this, it would look a little bit better. So that's just how I would format things for if I was going to print. It would just make things a little bit easier to read. Sometimes you'll have some people who will get colors. So like this would be a gray line, this one would be a gray line, and the ones between would be white. And it makes it easier to follow across larger sets of data. But obviously with a smaller set, it's not as big of a deal. So that would be how I would format for printing. And then if I actually did want to print this, this will go just right off the video, but if you go up to File and then go down to Print, you can save this as a PDF by going here. So within this, if you go down to this bottom arrow, you can save as a PDF. That way you can send it to anyone and your data is not going to get misformatted as you go through that. If I was working with a large set of data and I only wanted a piece of it to be saved in a PDF, I could just highlight that portion, File, Print. I could actually do this if I was printing as well. In the print, I can go to Selection and it's only going to print what I've highlighted. Since it's a small set of data, it was already showing up like that. But again, if I change to Selection and I do Save as a PDF, only that part's going to save as well. So in here is where all of that would be saved. So there's the first little video if you need help just formatting things. Other common things that are kind of nice, say that I didn't have this breakdown of quarter 1, quarter 2, 3, and 4. Or let's say I had another column somewhere. So something over here. Say these had something to do with something, had to do with one another. I could highlight 2 cells or more, and there's a merge tool here. So if you drop down, you have a couple of different options. I like things centered, so I normally do merge and center. This is just telling me that it's only going to keep things from the upper left cell. That's going to override the title that I had. Now, obviously, I don't want to do that. So your best friend to undo things is either your undo arrow up here or Command Z. So I'm going to hit Command Z a couple of times. If you didn't notice, I kind of showed you how you could insert a column. Another common thing would be like if I highlight, I could insert a row as well. It didn't look like I did anything, but it did insert one. So, or you could delete them. So if we didn't have any kids entering class through the ceiling tiles, I could delete that entire row, and that would work as well.